Donald Trump's decision today all but guarantees he will be on Colorado's primary ballot. Denver pushed migrants out of shelters and onto the streets until the homeless encampment got too big to ignore, leading to today's move back inside. The Democrats who run the state capitol talk about whether they're going to try again to pass tax increases and zoning changes that failed last year, and claims that the capitol has turned toxic.
I fiercely defend our implementation of rules and decorum in the House.
And tonight, we'll help kids in one of Denver's poorest neighborhoods imagine a different kind of future, then take steps to get there. Next. Donald Trump is appealing the Colorado Supreme Court decision that he's an insurrectionist who's ineligible to hold office. So unless there's a lightning-fast ruling from the U.S. Supreme Court, Trump's name will be printed on Colorado's primary ballot when it's certified Friday. This is an expected next step in the process. The Colorado justices built their ruling so that an appeal would keep Trump's name on the ballot. Trump's team is appealing, arguing that the 14th Amendment clause created to keep Civil War insurrectionists out of office does not apply to the president. They're also saying that the attack on the Capitol by a pro-Trump mob was not really an insurrection. The Colorado Republican Party already appealed to the Supreme Court. They say taking Trump off the ballot would be election interference. The state party is threatening to cancel the primary and hold a caucus instead if Trump isn't on the ballot. A faction of state party leadership is pushing the Colorado GOP to just endorse Trump right now over his primary opponents who are facing off against him on the ballot. Party leaders are going to vote on ditching their primary neutrality later this month. The idea had to get 25% support just to put it on the schedule for a vote. Denver capped the amount of time that migrants can stay in shelters to get federal aid and also to encourage migrants to find housing. The result was hundreds of migrants becoming homeless, living in a massive encampment off Spear Boulevard. So today our Mark Salinger was there as the city brought hundreds of people back indoors.
The fences that line the neighborhood off Spear and Zunai form a divide. What's left inside these makeshift walls will soon be thrown away.
No.
Whatever Henry Alvarez wants to keep, he knows he has to move.
Tenemos miedo porque no sabemos a dónde nos van a llevar.
The stroller comes first, then the diapers and the heater, which only works sometimes. Finally, it's time to take 19-month-old Nicolas out of the tent where the family has been living for 2 months and prepare him for the next move.
Ahora dicen que nos llevan para un refugio, pero no nos quieren decir a dónde. No nos dicen que hay 3 refugios, que uno es para familia, otro para solteros, pero en realidad no nos dicen hacia dónde nos van a llevar.
This street corner had become home for a small part of a months-long trek, which started in Venezuela. Now that the fences are up, they know it's time to leave a neighborhood that's helped them survive.
Y así la gente llega y nos ayuda, la comida, los pañales con el niño. Muchas personas buenas llegan aquí a ayudarnos.
The city of Denver promised to house every single one of the more than 300 migrants living at this camp. Some will get apartments, others will go to hotels. Many will move to a shelter. For everyone, change starts here.
They're afraid they're going to be separated.
As trash bags full of belongings fill the buses, volunteers do their best to translate instructions using their phones to families left puzzled on what comes next. For a family with a dog, a teenager, and a toddler, a hotel room is the next step in the journey. The cost of moving all these people into housing is not cheap. The mayor told city council, as we reported yesterday, could cost $180 million this year if migrant arrivals continue at this pace. For context, that's 10% of the entire general fund budget that the city has spent this year and is planning to spend this year. Homelessness this past year in 2023, they put $50 million for that, so almost 3 times as much. Today, Mayor Johnston told me that's completely unsustainable.
And we know, Mark, that some of the migrants who are coming to Denver are coming by word of mouth because they've told folks who are essentially kind of downstream in the process that this is a welcoming place to come. The former mayor, Mayor Hancock, said he was trying to get the message out that no, Denver is not where you want to come. We haven't heard that from Mayor Johnston.
Yeah, and there is concern that all these steps, things like Denver paying for the first month's rent for migrants who are working, there's concern that those steps will get passed down the line and more migrants will end up coming here. Mayor Johnston says they can't handle any more people coming here.
Mark Salinger, thank you. So Denver says the more than 36,000 migrants that have come to or through the city since last December is more migrants per capita than any city off the border. Mayor Johnston's pleas for the Biden administration to do more to help cities have not worked. So now the mayor says he's trying to get cities to work together on their own. The mayor told City Council this week he's trying to get dozens of city mayors to go in on a coordinated entry system where large American cities would agree to take in a set number of migrants based on the city's population size. The U.S. has used a similar system recently to resettle refugees from Ukraine and Afghanistan. Doing this would certainly take pressure off of Denver.
We are working on trying to build a coalition of other cities who'd say, we think everyone can do their part. If we looked at the top 50 cities, if all 50 cities in America said we'll participate and we'll only take a number of migrants relevant to the size of our population, our arrival would be about 50 migrants a week instead of closer to 2,000 a week.
Johnston and other Democrats have unsuccessfully pushed for a change in federal policy as well that would allow migrants to go to work legally without having to wait months for a work permit. Our next conversation tonight explores the toxic atmosphere at a workplace where you pay everyone's salary. It's the state capitol. Divisions among the Democrats who single-handedly run the place have led to resignations, retaliation against critics within the Democratic caucus, and accusations of racism and anti-Semitism. Politics guy Marshall Zellinger sat down today with House Speaker Julie McCluskey.
If this were a sports team, I'd be asking the coach, why are you letting this happen? So, Speaker, why are you letting this happen?
Marshall, I'm shocked by the question.
Democratic House Speaker Julie McCluskey has seen 2 Democratic lawmakers resign over a hostile work environment and another, Representative Alex Valdez, call out the lack of diversity in committee chairmanship.
There were 4 individuals that very likely would have served in a chair position, but they were all running for outside races, either the mayor's race or the Denver City Council race, and declined to take any leadership position.
The 4 she referred to are Valdez, who briefly ran for Denver mayor, Representative Leslie Herod, who also ran for mayor, Serena Gonzalez Gutierrez, who ran for city council, and Adrian Benavidez, who resigned before last year's session started.
It would be highly unusual for me to remove a chair of a committee who is performing successfully, meeting expectations after 1 year of their term, and replace them with someone who has now become available to serve in that role.
McCluskey did make a committee change last month, removing Elizabeth Epps and Bob Marshall from the Judiciary Committee. The 2 sued leadership last year, claiming both parties made legislative decisions out of the public's view. Most recently, Epps joined protesters in support of Palestinians in the House gallery and disrupted another lawmaker's speech. So I asked about making those changes to the committee lineup.
I would point to, for the Judiciary Committee, the overall interpersonal interactions with members of that committee, and my desire to make sure that we are able to achieve our policy agenda with the appointments I have made.
As lawmakers are set to return, what is the Speaker doing to resolve concerns about behavior and toxicity?
We have talked about our workplace expectations policy. We have talked about our workplace harassment policy. We are currently working on a tool to help members better understand specifically what behaviors may fall in or out of those policies.
I also asked about the lawsuit we showed viewers yesterday from Republican Representative Scott Bottoms about not being recognized at the well in the microphone and not having a bill read aloud when that's what he wanted. McCluskey would not speak to that lawsuit yet, but took exception with a delay of a helpful tax credit through this legal effort. We'll also hear from Senate President Steve Fenberg a little later in this show about in the policy section. But first, we had to get through this environment and the hostile environment section before we could talk about what policies they might want to work on this year.
Yeah, it's not a typical thing to have a bunch of elected or appointed representatives running for the exits before a session starts. If the problem is journalists asking about it, we could be in for a pretty long session.
It's interesting, the Democrats have a divide internally, so do the Republicans, but the Democratic leadership are getting it from both sides, from fighting with Republicans and fighting with the progressive Democrats in a way that we don't see the fight on the Republican side.
Guys, why is your house on fire? How dare you ask? It's a lovely house. Yeah, Marshall, thank you. Kids are headed back to school this week, and in Sun Valley, one of Denver's lowest income neighborhoods, the students are then headed to the Sun Valley Youth Center after school. They know they're having fun there. What they might not realize is that they are also laying the groundwork to break through generational poverty. That's why this week's Word of Thanks microgiving campaign supports the Sun Valley Youth Center. That nonprofit uses a trauma-informed process to help kids handle whatever else is going on in their lives. Then they layer on the one-on-one tutoring to help them stay on top of their schoolwork, nutritious food anytime they want it, after school and on summer break. They take field trips all over Colorado for a glimpse of life outside Sun Valley. It's just a safe place to play and learn and be a kid in that neighborhood, whether they're 5 years old or 15 years old. Young people really do grow up in the Sun Valley Youth Center, and then they get hired on to help the younger ones come along behind them. It's a place where kids develop their talents and the confidence that they can go anywhere they choose. And scan the QR code on your screen or text the word THANKS to 303-871-1491 to get the link to donate to the Sun Valley Youth Center. I will never ask you to give to a cause that I don't support myself, and you've proven even $5 helps. So I'll match the first 50 donations of $5 to get us rolling. You can also simplify your giving now by setting up a monthly donation to the Word of Thanks Fund. You put in your info once, and your monthly donation will be automatically split among all the nonprofits that we feature. You can use the same QR code or text to get there. This week, we're standing with the Sun Valley Youth Center, which embraces kids who often face a lot of challenges and helps them set a path of their choosing toward a different kind of life.
It's housing, it's transit, and it's our climate agenda.
All right, let's talk to the Dems in charge of the state capitol again as they outline this year's agenda. Sounds a whole lot like last year's that fell apart on them. When our conversation returns, what they think will be different this time. And the top Republican in the Colorado House says he wants out. He's going to run against Congresswoman Lauren Boebert. It seems a bit like every Republican in Colorado is running for outgoing Congressman Ken Buck's seat. And today, the top Republican in the state House threw his hat in the ring, and it's a gorgeous hat. State House Minority Leader Mike Lynch from Wellington announced that he'll run for Colorado's 4th Congressional District. He's been in the state House since 2020, became Minority Leader last year, and says he'll stay in that position while he runs for Congress. He said his priorities in Washington would be reducing the federal budget, stricter border control, and protecting gun rights. Primary field's already getting pretty crowded. 8 Republicans are in there, including Representative Lauren Boebert, who announced last week she's going to flee her difficult race in her current district to run for a different congressional district clear across the state. Boebert today rolled out an endorsement from the Speaker of the U.S. House, Mike Johnson. State air quality regulators say that you will be able to see a change in the air quality tomorrow, enough to trigger some mandatory restrictions. Colorado's Air Pollution Control Division says it's going to be what they call an action day for visibility. Weather conditions tomorrow could lead to bad visibility, even though they say the air quality is otherwise fine. It means that folks in the metro area are under indoor burning restrictions, and you're asked to limit the use of gas or diesel-powered vehicles. Because, Lauren Robinson, winter is coming. I have it on good authority. Finally, at long last, a return.
Yeah, not a whole lot of winter. We're not going to get a whole lot of snow here in Denver, but we will be seeing at least up to an inch or two by Friday, then another round Sunday night into Monday. So wintry enough. 29 degrees right now at DIA. We're still dry but cloudy. Winds coming in from the southeast at around 8 miles per hour, making it feel closer to 21 degrees on the skin. Now, we are monitoring our HD Doppler radar. Our next system is off to the west, dropping some snow across Nevada, Utah, even into Arizona. That's going to continue to push its way eastward and eventually make its approach into Colorado. We're going to see it early tomorrow morning to the southwest, but it'll eventually make its way into Denver, the rest of the Front Range and Eastern Plains late day tomorrow. So in the meantime, we're just going to see increasing cloud cover, overnight lows pretty mild in the middle 20s, and those winds not too bad. As far as air quality alerts go, we do have a dense fog advisory for northern portions of the urban corridor into northern and central portions of the eastern plains, where we're going to expect visibility to become less than a quarter mile. This is going to be a very foggy morning tomorrow from around 4 to 9 a.m. To the south, we have a couple of areas that'll be under winter weather advisories. When this snow comes in, it's going to fall heaviest to the south. So we have winter weather advisories from Wednesday night to Thursday night off to the southwest, southern portions of the Front Range and Eastern Plains. This advisory will take place Thursday morning to Friday morning as the system moves its way eastward. So we're going to watch for late snow tomorrow. It's going to dry out a little bit early tomorrow, Friday morning, and then come back late Friday night. Tuesday or Saturday, we're just looking for very brief snow showers, and then another storm system pushes in late Sunday into Monday.
The problem is that I think the bill last year had too much in it, and there was a lot for people to like and a lot for people to dislike.
Maybe that's why Coloradans spanked Democrats' tax plan on the ballot last year. Maybe it's why Democrats' land use bill at the Capitol failed. Perhaps both. So we'll ask them, and most importantly, whether they'll try again. The real battles at the state capitol aren't fought between Democrats and Republicans because the GOP caucus could fit in a phone booth these days. It's the division between Democrats that led to the failure of the governor's top priority last year, a bill that would give the state more power over local land use. It could reshape our cities and towns, and that bill's coming back. Senate President Steve Fenberg told Marshall Zellinger why.
The problem is that I think the bill last year was just had too much in it. And there was a lot for people to like and a lot for people to dislike. And sometimes that recipe resulted in it not having enough votes at the end of the day to get across the finish line.
One of the biggest controversies at the legislature last year was over a land use bill that would have given the state more power in land use decisions that currently and historically are handled by local governments. It died at the end of last year's session, but will be back this year.
The policy will be broken out into separate pieces so people can support some, oppose others.
Is that the Prop HH lesson? Breaking it up?
No, I think it's a lesson of land use is complicated, it's personal, and it impacts every community in a different way.
In the House, Democratic Speaker Julie McCluskey is pushing to continue something lawmakers have done just once in the last 14 years, fully fund K-12 education. Since 2009, the legislature has used a mathematical formula to subtract some funding to each school district. This year, the state portion is fully funded, and McCluskey said today she expects that to continue.
And I hope those dollars are going into teacher salaries and benefits, maintaining smaller classroom sizes, and certainly ensuring that every kid in this state has a world-class public education.
For Next, I'm Marshall Zellinger.
Marshall's full conversation with the Senate President and the House Speaker also touches on the recent lawsuit from a Republican representative that could snag an increase in a tax credit and whether this might finally be the year for a Front Range rail project. Full conversation is on our YouTube channel and on 9news.com. Back with your feedback. We talk about pipelines often for young people, and that tends to have a negative connotation that once kids start on a difficult path, it's tough to stop the consequences. But the Sun Valley Youth Center has created a pipeline for success. The after-school and summer program focuses on the whole person: meals, exercise, tutoring, field trips, all of it trauma-informed based on what these kids have gone through in life. It's the pathway to a world beyond one of Denver's most challenged neighborhoods. This week's Word of Thanks microgiving campaign supports that nonprofit's work in the community. Scan the QR code on your screen or text the word THANKS to 303-871-1491, and you'll see an option to give just this week to Sun Valley Youth Center or to make things simpler by giving to every Word of Thanks nonprofit that we feature. Heather writes in tonight to say, what is the difference between migrant and, she says, illegal immigrant? She says many, including myself, don't know. So the fact is, Heather, we've talked to a lot of the folks who are in Denver shelters and on the streets, and their legal status is mixed. Some of the folks are in a legal pathway. They have the ability to be in the country legally. They're applying for asylum. They're applying for temporary protected status if they're Venezuelans. Some folks entered illegally, do not have permission to be in the country. So there's no kind of blanket about what applies to everybody in these situations. Zeke had a request for Santa. Please bring Kyle a new color of suit, although blue matches his outlook on life. Should we try red tomorrow, Zeke? See you next time.